George, do you have any funny or I'm sure you have funny and fucked up tour stories because you've been on the road for so long. I want to hear one if you would give that to us.
I don't know.
Better good.
I know that there are some, but I can't think of any right now off the top of my head, you know.
The thing is, you always remember the bad stuff. You always only remember the bad stuff.
I mean, look, there's been, we've sat at borders for extended periods of time, and we went through that, I think on one of our DVDs. We've had, again, shows canceled. We can't play this song, you can't play that song, but you can play this song.
Stories are always very...
but I don't know about any of them, just because that's just... Yeah, but... I mean, well, there's one, but I'm not really... I'm not going to talk about it. If you ever do an interview with my man Pete Robertson, he'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Pete Robertson.
Yeah, Pete Robertson, the man.
I know Pete.
You know Pete, yeah.
Yeah, why do I know Pete?
Pete's the best.
Fanfest Dropkick.
Oh, Dropkick front of house. Yeah, I know.
Pete Robertson.
Pete is
the
awesome.
best. And
we were actually talking about getting him on the podcast.
Actually, I believe that maybe this story is in Nurgle's book, I think, because we were on tour with Behemoth.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we'll ask Pete about that one.
It involves me, and it involves,
some other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, but look, okay, who cares? Basically, I there's some times where I don't go to sleep when I should be going to sleep, and I'll stay up a little bit later. And I was sitting, in the back of the bus, headphones on, listening to music, and just drinking beers and whiskey. And we had parked, and I don't know, it was probably 9 in the morning, 10 in the morning, and Pete Robertson comes to the back, and he just always would call me Fisher. He would never call me anything, never George, Fisher, go to bed, And I was like, oh, what's up, Pete? I am, after this beer, I'm going to bed. He said, go to bed. I was like, all right. And then he tried to leave, and I was like, wait a minute, hold on. And I just ripped a fart. And he was like, oh, that sounded wet. And I was like, ha. And then he went out front. He went outside the bus, and then I was like, oh, man.
It was wet.
Oh, it was way wet. And I was like, I went and grabbed some clothes, and I was like, Pete. And Pete was like, no. And I was like, yes. And he's like, I don't even know if the club is open. I'm like, dude, Pete, you got to help me, man. So he went to the club, and it was open and whatever, and I remember I was showering, if I remember correctly. And
That's
one of the people that worked at the club was like, George. And I was like, what? And I'm just sitting there, butt naked, showering with the curtain open, like this. And he's like, I'll shut the curtain for it. I was like, oh, thank you, because I was fucking drunk, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So,
we know.
And then that night after the show, like all day, of course, Pete tells everybody the story and tells all the guys in the band. So they looked for a song, and they found the song. So when usually show's over, unless I stay on the stage and throw the set lists out and picks and whatever, or whatever, if I just stay on the stage, I'd normally just take off and go, to the bus. And they were like, no, stay on the stage, man. Pete's got this, after the show song that he wants to play. And so I'm on the stage, and everybody in the band is still on the stage. And I'm like, I know it's coming. I didn't know exactly what was coming, but I knew something was coming. And it's like, I just shit my pants, yeah. I just shit my pants. And I was like, you motherfuckers. And everybody laughed. Yay, good time, har. And there you go. So there's a shit story right there.
I love it.
It wasn't even shit. It was just liquid. It was just like, probably just, the whiskey diarrhea, basically.
Whiskey-rhea.
Pretty much. I mean, there was not solid in that at all. And I had to throw the pants out and everything. I was like, man, luckily I bring 2 pairs of stage pants. Yeah.
Maybe you have to steal that idea from Pete and play a poop song for someone someday.
It was rough. I just remember Robertson. I just remember going, dude, Fish, that sounded wet. I was like, ha. And he said, I'll see you later. He said, go to bed. I was like, okay. And then I got up like, oh.
Oh, no, I'm sticking to the seat.
No. And, yeah.
I think at some
I just remember as soon as I walked out with I always bring a towel with me anyway from home. I had a towel. I had clothes. I was like, Pete. He's like, no. I was like, yeah.
Oh.
So he hooked me up. He got me to the shower, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a good one. I think at some point we would have to do a top 3 of poop stories of on the roadcast.
You know what? That's how your the people.
Knock on wood, I've never shit myself on stage. That has never happened. There's been a couple of times where I'm like, oh, whoa.
Oh,
Like,
shit.
you know, but there's been a couple of times too where people come up to me and go, hey man, did you fucking fart that last song? And I'm like, yep. And they're like, the whole stage smells.
That could be me.
That makes, dude, look, the shit thing, that doesn't make me happy. It made me sad. But if I fart on stage and if Eric would come up to me and go, hey man, dude, I'd be like, mm-hmm.
With
And if
kind
you
of
smelled it, that
proud
makes me
nod.
happy. That's power.
Honestly,
Honestly,
the
that's
territory.
it's hard for me to tour with people who don't think farting is funny.
It's funny.
It's funny.
It's so funny, and then
It's
you're
funny
on
until
tour
it
with
smells.
different people. You maybe just for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and you just have to hold back so badly because they're not used
I'm
to
not
that kind of
holding anything
humor.
back.
I hate
I was
it.
on the bus day 2 and I farted.
But you're
Well, there's like-
you're farting people, like you celebrate
But
it.
here's the thing though, like, you know, we have the bunk area where everybody's sleeping. And for the longest time, especially me, I'll stay up later than anybody else. And I'll go to bed and obviously go to bed later. And so during the day, they're all doing, you know, their business, whatever, and coming back and forth to the bus, whatever. And I'm sleeping in the bunk. And they would just call the bunk area the chamber of farts.
The chamber of
Because
farts.
when you'd open it, I mean, dude, and I've been wakened a few times of like, oh, man.
fucked up.
And I'm just in my bunk. I love it.
And the fun thing is that you don't smell in your sleep. So your farts
in your
are
sleep.
powerful
But
enough
they're-
to wake
well,
people up.
I'll tell you this now.
Kudos.
Like, I sleep with my bunk curtain closed.
Who doesn't?
Well, not in Europe, I don't as much because, like, you know, sometimes the bunk air is, you know, the way they have the vents blow right into your mouth, dry your throat out. That's not good for me.
Horrible.
So I want
me too.
the outside air. And there will be times where my ass is facing the hallway. And but if I have the bunk curtain closed, I've sometimes farted and be like, oh.
You have to
And
open
I just
it.
wave
yeah.
it,
Like,
you know, and then I'll hear somebody else in their bunk go, oh. Or more importantly, you'll hear people go, psst, psst, you know, got little sprays with them. So they spray some
and
spray.
I can't even blame anyone because you go, you know, you're at home and you eat the same stuff that you eat all the time. You have your diet, then you go somewhere and you suddenly eat stuff that your digestive system doesn't know. And of course, it's going to be kind of.
Or it already knows, and
fucked
it's
up.
like, wow, thank you, you're back. Because like I was, well, especially years ago when I was really known for being a stink ass, I would be eating Slim Jims and truck stop burgers, and I'll tell you, they give you the worst mixed with beer and stuff, the worst farts you can imagine. Yeah, you know,
Makes me
they're like the
happy.
worst.
Love it.
They're the worst farts, but you know. I mean, look, you know, I just, you know, I mean, it is what it is. You know, people fart.